Hong Kong police were alone in the Parliament building, just hours after protesters had occupied the legislative chamber. The South China Morning Post reported that officers only entered after the occupiers had left. Hundreds of protesters hadn't been stopped as they smashed their way in. They want the Hong Kong government to completely withdraw the proposed extradition bill which sparked this unrest. Hong Kong's leader, Carrie Lam, put the extradition bill on hold after protests in mid-June. On Tuesday morning, she spoke out strongly about the storming of Parliament.
So this is something that we should seriously condemn, because nothing is more important than the rule of law in Hong Kong. So I hope the community at large will agree with us that with these violent acts that we have seen, it is right for us to condemn it and hope society will return to normal as soon as possible.
Protesters had remained in the streets outside Parliament deep into the night. Police were surprisingly restrained in their use of force. But will that continue if public opinion changes?
And joining us now from Hong Kong is DW's Phoebe Kong. Phoebe, what's the situation on the streets there today?
Yeah, I'm here sitting outside the legislative complex, which has been occupied last night. And today there are dozens of police officers now guarding the whole legislative complex. And many of them are gathering evidence inside the chamber and other different of the complex. And there are also some staff starting to tidy up the road nearby the building, and for right now, no one can enter the complex at all, including the lawmakers. So, but at the same time, we can see there is no protest today at all. No one is protesting or either gathering outside the electrical complex right now.
So the police are there now at the Legislative Council building today, but where were they yesterday? They made no effort to protest, to protect, rather, the council building when the protesters ransacked it. Have they offered any explanation for that?
Yeah, this is a controversial issue, like many people are discussing, and many are really critical about what they did last night, because at the very beginning, police have they have deployed a certain number of police inside the electrical building, but suddenly at night they retreated. So that leads to the occupation, because when the protesters broke into the building, there is simply no police inside the building at all. So, so the police explain that because they're under attack, right before the occupation, and they found that it's hard for them to deploy more forces to the electoral building because of the some of the constraints of the environment here. So they decided to retreat, and then but they are also criticized by some of the pro-democracy lawmakers that they think this is a kind of tactic to trap the protesters and let them enter the building, and so that it gives a reason for the police to use a more vigorous force, like tear gas we saw last night, to disperse the protesters. So this is a very controversial issue.
Now, Hong Kong's chief executive, Carrie Lam, she has condemned the protesters' actions there at the Legislative Council building. How have the protesters themselves reacted to that?
Carrie Lam, she held a press briefing at 4 a.m. at night last night in Hong Kong, after all the clearance and all the clashes. And but what she said, she was simply repeating what she has mentioned in the past few weeks, which is she is only to suspend the bill, and she reiterated that the bill will die if the government is not going to restart the debate. But obviously she refused to withdraw it. So and she didn't respond any of the response of any of the demands of the protesters, but only to strongly condemn the violence of the protesters. So obviously she is still ignoring the elephant in the room, and she is not addressing the major concerns of the protesters. So the protesters, they are not satisfied, and this is not going to solve the problem, and this is not going to ease the tension between the protesters and the government.
Phoebe, thank you very much for bringing us up to date there. DW's Phoebe Kong there in Hong Kong.